How's it going, fellow Detroit Red Wings fans? So, today marks the start of training camp, where we will see Red Wings veterans, stars, rookies, and prospects all getting into shape and getting ready for next season, along with the coaches and general managers being able to see where everyone is at in terms of getting ready and putting together a roster for the start of the preseason on Wednesday, September 29th, when the Red Wings face off against the Chicago Blackhawks. But this video is not about that. It's about what took place a week ago. A week ago specifically, September 16th, the Detroit Red Wings and a couple other teams got together in Traverse City to hold the annual Prospect Tournament, which kicked off with the Red Wings facing off against the Dallas Stars Prospect Tournament team. Which, by the way, if you were wondering who was in the Red Wings lineup, you can check out our previous video, but for now, let's talk about the games. The Red Wings show off their improving defense and open the game by killing off the penalty, and then a little bit before halfway into the first period, who other than the young Russian, Tayativ, to score the opening goal of the game. And boy was it a doozy. The play started when Pearson broke up a Stars play and got the puck moving in the other direction, feeding it off to Cross Hannes, who fed a nice cross-ice pass right onto Tayativ's stick, where he sniped the upper hand short side corner. The next goal came from Chase Pearson after a steal from Dallas by Tayativ. It's a great play, especially the steal. That was just hard work. That goal wraps up the first period, 2-0 Wings. And the Red Wings add to that lead within the first 40 seconds of the second period with a goal I'm sure most Red Wings fans saw. That was Raymond's first goal in a Red Wings uniform. And man, it was an absolute beauty of a one-timer set up by none other than Jonathan Berggren himself after a breakout pass by free agent signee Wyatt Newpower. This is very much what the near future could look like. Both Berggren and Raymond are both top-notch playmakers, and Raymond has an impressive shot that is a tad bit underrated. Then for the better part of the rest of the period, it's the Red Wings in their defensive zone. Victor Brattstrom was for the most part standing on his head, unfortunately letting one go by. And then Tayativ takes the puck across the front of the net and pots his second goal of the game. This is for sure a goal scorer's goal. It looks similar to some of Anthony Mantha's goals, where he powers through the defense to cross the net and shoot the puck around the goalie. But more importantly, the fact he has the competitive edge to cross that net, even though Elite Prospects has him listed as 146 pounds, which I believe he weighed in heavier, but even if you add 30-40 pounds of muscle, compared to most of these defensemen, it is not much. But the fact he is willing to attempt to make that play speaks to his competitive level and willingness to make tough plays. Then less than a minute later, Jonathan Berggren steals the puck from a Dallas Stars defenseman and feeds it off to Veleno, who is able to find the back of the net from a hard angle shot. That will wrap up the second period with the Red Wings on the penalty kill. The Red Wings unfortunately had an uneventful third period, at least in their favor. The Dallas Stars tried to launch a comeback, but it was all for nothing as they couldn't find the tying goal before the period ran out. The big takeaways, in my opinion, was how good that top line looked of Berggren, Veleno, Raymond. They had majority of the points on the team. Tayativ looked really good, especially for how young of a prospect he is. It's looking to be an exciting year for him in Grand Rapids. And of course Brattstrom, who looked a lot better than his numbers would suggest, especially in the third period, and Sabranko looked better than a third-round pick from the 2020 draft. Maybe not a point-producing defenseman, but a strong defensive defenseman who can be used as a utility player. The Red Wings face off against the Dallas Stars. Finally, we get to see Sebastian Cossa play in the red and white. The game goes back and forth for the first 5 minutes. The Berggren, Veleno, and Raymond line, who appear to have some chemistry, get some good zone time and seem to tip momentum towards the Red Wings. Unfortunately, a little bit into the 7th minute of the game, the first goal is scored by the St. Louis Blues on a high shorthand side shot. Then in the following minutes, the infamous Veleno, Raymond, and Berggren line go to work, and well, watch. This was Raymond's second goal of the tournament, and it was an absolute laser. Also, this hit from Veleno sets up the whole play. Then the game takes a chippy turn. Veleno, who what many people in the comments were calling Swoleno, surprisingly had some fire and passion between the chippiness. It leads to a power play for the Red Wings that played well in the offensive zone but couldn't complete the plays and missed a couple of passes. It led to a good save by Kosa and a good rush by Sebrango. Cross Hannes from the 2020 NHL Draft has been making good passes. This one off a rush to T-Bone Cod and a pass in the first game that led to Tayativ's first goal of the tournament. Then the first fight of the game, Sebrango of the Red Wings and Guy of the St. Louis Blues go at it. Pretty evenly matched, but definitely good haymakers on both sides. Unfortunately, a little bit later leads to another goal from the St. Louis Blues from arguably the same spot and for the most part hitting the same spot on the net at shorthand side. And then another goal, unfortunately, from a soft penalty called on the Wings. So right now the game is 3-1. It's looking pretty bad for the Red Wings and more specifically for Kosa. This is his first showing against somewhat pro players, no longer just junior players, and it's been rough. Here's the thing though, goalies take a little bit to develop. Kosa and Walston will be no exception. And now Kosa and the Red Wings know his weak points, where he needs to develop when he goes back to the WHL with the Edmonton Oil Kings, who are a pretty dominant team. He will be able to work on his weaknesses and also learn from his experience of skating with Bradstrom, Bednar, and the goalie coaches at the prospect tournament. That will for the most part wrap up the second period of the game. Then, roughly around the 5th minute of the third period, the St. Louis Blues are on the power play and the shot through heavy traffic finds the back of the net in the same spot as the previous goals. The Red Wings get a late power play leading into the second half of the third period, which leads to this amazing play by Veleno winning the faceoff, Tayativ snatching up the loose puck, feeding it up to McIsaac at the point, who he passes over to Raymond, who takes a shot just above the top of the circles and snipes the upper hand corner. It's a beautiful shot, Raymond's second goal of the game, and a great power play setup. The Blues get another power play goal, which caps this game off at 5-2. Both Red Wings goals by Raymond and 3 of the St. Louis Blues goals came on the power play. Now, like I said before, this looked horrible for Kosa in his first game in the red and white, but I think for Kosa to have to go back to juniors and play with a strong defense, I think he would want to know his weaknesses, where he needs to develop, even if he gets gobbled alive by an opposing team. He's young and has loads of time to develop, especially for a goalie, so I wouldn't be too worried about Kosa. The last game of the Prospects tournament, the Red Wings faced off against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Red Wings were missing Berggren and Raymond from their lineup, and Jan Bednar started in net for the Red Wings. It started off, as you would assume, missing their top forward. The Jackets got out to an early 2-0 lead, and then 3-0 later in the first. A few minutes later, Chase Pearson pots the first goal of the game for the Red Wings. It was a hard-working goal, not pretty, but got the job done. Unfortunately, another big loss to the lineup. Jared McIsaac gets checked from behind and gets removed from the ice unconscious. As it appears right now, McIsaac is back up and alert and ready to get back to playing hockey, so hopefully nothing too serious. And that wraps up the first period. Heading into the second period, it opens up with a hit from New Power that sends Cole Sillinger headfirst into the boards, which invites a fight between Red Wings defenseman New Power and Blue Jackets player Dunn, which was short-lived, but who doesn't love a little old-time hockey? The Red Wings and Bednar fend off a strong power play from the Blue Jackets. A little after 5 minutes into the second, the Red Wings got onto the power play and capitalized, with Veleno taking the puck, drawing a Jackets penalty killer towards him, making a quick move over to Donovan Sebrango, who fires a shot that leads to a tip-in by Pascal Zito, a 6th round pick from the 2021 NHL Draft. The rest of the game is pretty rough. The second period finishes up with one more goal by the Columbus Blue Jackets, making it 2-4. It ends up finishing 7-3 Columbus Blue Jackets. The only remaining goal for the Red Wings is a nice front of the net goal from Cross Hannes, very similar to Chase Pearson's from earlier, which is a good sign. Hannes has been making really good passes. It's good to see him pot a goal in this tournament. For that, it wraps up the tournament. It was a rough tournament for the Red Wings, but a good one in the sense of development. Let's face it, there was no championship. This team didn't get weeks to train together. It was a way for teams and prospects to see where they are at, where they need to improve, and get better. But you include some of the top prospects over in Sweden, and this team would have done a lot better. With that being said, lots of prospects showed how good they are, like Lucas Raymond, Jonathan Berggren, Joe Veleno, who formed a wonderful top line that produced a lot of offensive time and points. Kirill Tateyev was all over the ice and made a strong case for people to watch for him in Grand Rapids. Pascal Zito also was really good, especially for being a 6th round selection in this year's draft. And Cross Hannes, I feel like also needs a shout out. He was making small but good plays. Sebastian Cossa, who had a good prospect tournament in terms of what he needs to work on, and will give him a lot of work heading back to the Edmonton Oil Kings as he continues down his path towards becoming an NHL starting goalie. And for that, we turn our attention to training camp, and soon, the preseason. What did you think of the Red Wings prospect tournament? Does Raymond make the opening night roster? Let us know down below. Red Wing Nation was designed to be a community of Red Wings fans that could come together and talk about all things Red Wings. If you like this video, drop a like. That way we make more content that you like. And lastly, don't be afraid to subscribe. That way you get notified when we upload a video. And until next time, lights on the red light district.